the art of thinking beyond the obvious. And today I have my special guest. Over 30 years of clinical experience and have had the honor of helping countless individuals to transform their personal and professional lives. And of course, the author of the book is Your Life, none other than Dr. Michelle Maidenberg. Welcome. Welcome, Dr. Michelle. I'm not sure I say, and can you please introduce more about yourself in that 5 minutes?
Sure. So I have a private practice in Harrison, New York. I have a nonprofit, and I'm the clinical director of Through My Eyes, THRU, and it offers free clinically guided videotaping for chronically medically ill individuals who want to leave a video legacy for their children and loved ones. I'm a blogger for Psychology Today. I have a YouTube channel with guided meditations. I'm a professor at NYU and teach a graduate course on mindfulness. And then I have 2 books. One is called Ace Your Life, Unleash Your Best Self and Live the Life You Want. And then also 53, Sorry for Your Child from Overeating. And it's 53 Strategies for Lifelong Health.
Yes, and thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world, Dr. Michelle. Thank you. And today let's talk about the ACE method of unleashing your best self. 20 guest focused questions. So let's start with the core premise. What was the pivotal moment or insight that led you to develop an ACE method, and what gap in personal development did you see it filling?
It's a great question. So ACE stands for Acceptance, Compassion, and Empowerment, and it's predicated under those precepts. And what I was finding is that, there's a lot of avoidance. I did a TED Talk several years ago on emotional avoidance, and that we tend to avoid negative or uncomfortable emotions, and that leads to a lot of stuckness. So this is really a way to get through any type of stuckness that comes up. And, there's always stuckness that comes up throughout the development of our lives. So it could be relationship issues, it could be anxiety, it could be depression, it could be, anything that gets in your way. And it's really a methodology and a way to live your life so that no matter what comes up, that you're making the best decisions for yourself based on your core values.
Dr. Michelle, the ACE acronym, awareness, choice, execution, seems deceptively simple. What makes this?
Yeah, acceptance, compassion, and empowerment. That's the acronym.
My apologies. So what is this 3-part frame uniquely powerful compared to other self models?
Well, a lot of other models are very behavioral, and this is psychological. So it really talks about our thinking. So like the first chapter, for example, talks about our neurobiology, and that we always have this propensity to avoid danger and discomfort because that's the way our brains are wired. So it really kind of teaches you about your brain and that we tend to avoid, which then leads to our stuckness. And then we have a whole chapter on values, because it's really the premise by which we make decisions. Often we make decisions based on our thoughts and feelings, and that actually leads us to decision making that really isn't in line with our best authentic self. So, and then acceptance is not about like, I have to accept everything that happens to me and live a life of mediocrity, but it's more about noticing. It's more about cultivating the life that you want. Compassion, we learn about how to be compassionate towards others. We never really learn how to be compassionate towards ourselves. And the way to be productive and successful and move through stuckness is actually with self-compassion. And empowerment really is an instruction or a guide how to get through the stuckness. So there's a lot of books right now on habits and habit formation. And when I ask people, let's say losing weight, for example, I'll say, how many of you have lost weight over a period of time? And everybody's hands go up. And then I ask them, how many of you have sustained it over a long period of time? And the hands go down. So we know how to create habits. We don't know how to maintain them over a long period of time. And that's what happens. Our brain goes back to what's familiar and what's comfortable. And we repeat these patterns of behavior, which is often very unhelpful and could be very, very counterproductive. So I help people get through whatever comes their way so they're living their best authentic life.
Dr. Michelle, many people struggle between knowing what to do and actually doing it. How does ACE specifically bridge the infamous knowing doing gap?
That's a great question, and that is exactly what the whole book is about. Because, like you said, most people know what to do. We have so many resources now on the internet for everything. But again, how many of us actually stick to those habits? And how many of us actually are able, right? If something's getting in the way and not allowing you to act in the way that you want to, that's going to lead you to have a more, fulfilling life. People don't know how to get through that stuckness. It stops there. The buck stops there. So I really help with a lot of exercises and worksheets and help you to work through that. And I'll give you an example. Often it has to do with our thinking. So, if I say, I can't do that, and I'm convinced that that's my thought, that's not actually an accurate thought. That could be a distorted thought. So if I think that I can't do it, I'm not going to even attempt to. I'm going to give up. I'm going to feel hopeless. I'm going to feel helpless. If I say I'm having the thought that I can't, that is shifting things and reframing it so I know it's just a thought. It's not a fact. And then I could say, okay, I'm having the thought that I can't do it. It's making me feel helpless and hopeless, right?
Mhm.
Maybe it's just a thought. So if I were to really act upon this goal or whatever it is that I want to do, what would I be doing? And then you could think about it differently, feel differently about it, and approach it differently. So that's just like one very simple, skill, but there's tons of them in my book, tons and tons.
Very well said, Dr. Michelle. Very well said. In the awareness phase, what are the most common blind spots or self deceptions you see people needing to confront first?
So self awareness, which you mentioned, which is in all phases of, acceptance, compassion, and empowerment, is very important because we have to really be able to look at ourselves. We have to be able to see it all, even the things we don't want to see. So it
Hmm.
helps in a very gentle, compassionate way to allow you to do it incrementally in little tiny steps. Because the moment that we lean into that and we do something, our brain gets fearful and then we resist it. So we have to really be careful not to self sabotage, right? So we really approach things and our self awareness in very incremental ways. And again, I teach you how to do that because your brain is going to reject. It's going to say, this feels uncomfortable. This feels unfamiliar. It gets fearful. It gets anxious. And then it just retreats. And then it goes back to the very typical, usual patterns of behavior. So it helps you to recalibrate. It helps you to recognize when you're having those thoughts and feelings and say to yourself, wow, this is really hard for me. And I tend, when I feel this fear, right, I tend to go back to what's comfortable and retreat. And this time I want things to be different because I don't want to repeat that behavior. That behavior has not been working for me. So the self awareness part is so key in everything that we do.
Indeed. So, for someone feeling stuck or unclear about what they truly want, what is the first awareness exercise you have to do them?
So like I said, the first chapter talks about our brain and it talks about how our brain gets us into these typical patterns. So there are so many different exercises, in the book. The book's right here. um, but I'll just give like an example of something. I gave you the one about our thinking, which comes up a lot. Also, if we look at like the patterns of behavior, we do a value, let's say, review. We talk about what core values are significant to us. And when we extrapolate our core values, what we want to do is we want to define what they are. And we also want to talk about what we're going to do on a daily basis in order to lean into those values. And not only that, when we do the values review, it's a much more empowering approach. It's a much more gentle and compassionate approach. So we don't say to ourselves, if we didn't lean into our parenting values one particular day and we leaned out of them, we could say, not that we're a bad parent, but today wasn't like a day that we particularly leaned into this value. Tomorrow, we're going to do, a more intentional practice of leaning into this value because the value is so keenly important to us. And also, just because you didn't into a value on a particular day, you don't erase it and say, this is not important to me. And we do that. We do that all the time. When we don't exercise, when we say we're going to do it, or we don't eat right, or we have an argument with a partner or a friend, we make these very broad generalizations about who we are and about, let's say, the relationship or how we see ourselves. And then it keeps us stuck. It keeps us behaving and perpetuating that same pattern of behavior.
Interesting, Dr. Michelle. So, how do you balance structured discipline with the necessary flexibility within the execution phase? Where's the line between consistency and rigidity?
So that's a good question because we,
Thank you.
again, like you said, our brain is going to keep on perpetually going to that place. So I made a list. I'll give you an example of over 30 excuses and rationalizations our mind has for our behavior. And I'll read
Yes.
out some of them off. It's too hard. I don't care. I'll do better next time. It's okay for me to do this. I want it. I need it. It's not fair. Everyone else is doing it. And again, I have over 30 rationalizations. And once you get a little, familiar with how your mind rationalizes and it gets you into positions that you don't feel like, you're acting on behalf of your values, you could then work with it and you could be a little bit more flexible. You could be a little bit more open with the way you think about things. And it's about noticing those things. So, like another skill is developing these compassion cards. And that's where you would have like a self-limiting thought. And I always procrastinate and have a hard time finishing what I start because procrastination is a type of stuckness. And the rationalization is, I'll do it tomorrow. It won't matter anyway, which is, again, a rationalization that we make. And then helpful replies to the thought. I choose to understand what's uncomfortable for me and what feeling I'm avoiding. Convincing myself I can do it later is an excuse for why I'm not doing it now, right? What feeling of uncomfortability are you avoiding in order to not do what you need to do? So let's say there's work you need to do or a task you need to finish. And of course, your mind is saying, no, it would be much better to watch some Netflix, or it would be better to like hang out with my friends, than sit and do the work I need to do. That's where you could talk back to the mind and move forward instead of staying stuck in that place, right? And even just sitting with the discomfort, I talk about mindfulness and sitting with the discomfort that comes up in your body and getting familiar with it and connecting that mind body connection is going to also help to move you forward. So, those are just some examples.
Well, thank you for that examples, Dr. Michelle. And let's talk about the integration and transformation. The promise is unleashing your best self. How do you define the best self, and what signs indicate someone is moving toward to it?
So, best self is like, I don't use the word happiness, for example, right? Because we fall into this happiness trap. And then what we do is we get obsessive about grasping and clinging and attaching to feelings. We always want to be happy. We always want to be, we want our mind to be quiet. And when that doesn't happen, we get very, very, very self demeaning. Why can't my mind stop? Why do I have to always think that way? Why do I have to be anxious? And then when we tell our minds not to think about something, that's when it's going to think about it. If I tell you right now, don't think about the number three, get the number three out of your mind is automatically going to think about the number three in order to forget the number three. And that is what happens when we say, don't think about this or don't feel this way. What happens is there's a reason, there's utility for these emotions. Emotions are good. Emotions actually help us to connect to what's important to us. And if we understand that, we won't be phobic or we won't admonish
Mhm.
ourselves for having those emotions. So it's important to kind of identify and understand that so that you're leaning into your values and that you're actually moving forward. So it's all predicated on over our values. And that is, people don't understand, what also keeps you stuck, because stuckness is different for every person. So when we're doing our values review, you get to also identify your stuckness. What is it that's keeping you, the behaviors, whether it's like overworking or people pleasing or worrying and overthinking or blaming or distracting or deflecting. And there's, again, list I give of what leads to our stuckness.
Well, very well said, Dr. Michelle. But before we wrap up our discussion for today, I'm inviting you to please do listen to my other podcast, people, because my Abstract Essay is already in sixth season, Abstract Poetry in third season, and my Book 101 review in sixth season as well, Comedy 101 third season, and my Food 101 in sixth season too, Geography 101 Love Letters, Movie 101 Review, Music 101 of fifth season, Science 101, Sex 101 and fourth season, Trivia 101, Law 101, Mental Health 101, Motivation 101, Entrepreneurship 101, and of course, my Bible Verses 101 are my baby podcasts. Please listen to them wherever you listen your podcast. So, Dr. Michelle, in your experience, what is the most transformative aha moment people typically have when working deeply with this method?
It's seeing change. It's really seeing fundamental change. Yeah, and really to walk around with contentment and satisfaction, and to really, like I said, live your best life. Life is really short. It goes by really
Yes.
quickly. We only have one life to live, so got to do it right.
Definitely build your legacy just like Dr. Michelle. So, can you please invite our listeners to support your advocacy, your books, or whatever projects that you're doing right now?
So yes, it's Ace Your Life, Unleash Your Best Self, and Live the Life You Want. And to get that, it's also an audiobook as well, with a recording with my voice. And then also my other book, which is, again, Free Your Child from Overeating. And, feel free, again, to look at my Psychology Today blog and also my YouTube channel as well.
Yes, people support Dr. Michelle, because if you support her, for sure, more and more empowering books like this to rise, more and more empowering advocacy will be implemented. And one more question, Dr. Michelle, looking forward to the future. If everyone truly embodied the ACE method, how do you believe our workplaces, relationships, and communities would transform?
Big time. Big time. Because, again, you would be really, really acting on behalf of your values, right? On my website, there's a quiz, which really allows you to identify your place and your area of stuckness. So it is transformative. I've had people a woman that I worked with, who literally failed the bar exam 5 times, and she came and saw me and got her to pass the bar exam. She's currently married with 2 children. She was very depressed, was not engaged in relationships. So whatever it is that you want, you could have at your fingertips.
Mindset, people, mindset. And one more, Miss Michelle, for someone who feels they already done substantial personal work, what a new depth or dimension does ASE offer that might surprise them?
What does it offer? It offers a guide for life. It offers guidance. And again, a lot of books, my book also, each chapter ends with a guided meditation. There's a QR code, which people really like. So it all helps you to integrate the information that you're learning. And again, people use my language. It has a certain language. It has a certain, it's a state of mind. It's a mindset.
A mindset indeed, Dr. Michelle. Thank you so much for your time.
You're welcome. Thank you so much for having me.
Monica, people, see you soon.